How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to take a look at the newest core set in the YuGiOh TCG, being Doom of Dimensions. It is the fall core set, and usually the fall core set tends to shake up the meta quite a bit. However, this time around, it's not really going to be the case. Sure, there are some amazing cards in Doom of Dimensions, but it's really going to be supporting a lot of archetypes that have come out in previous sets, specifically like in Justice Hunters. Now, in front of me, I have a list of pretty much all the notable cards in the set. Maybe I'm missing one or two, but to be honest, we're covering the basics here. And I want to go over, again, these cards and talk about why they're going to be impactful, some of the new archetypes as well, and make sure that you know what cards to look out for when you're either opening the set, practicing for this format, or just playing against friends in general. So if you're excited for the video, do me a favor, leave a like on it, and of course subscribe to the channel. But with that being said, let's take a look at why Doom of Dimensions is going to be such a good set. Starting off, of course, with the card you see on your screen, it is going to be Marshmallow Yummy. This card is incredibly good for Yummy strategy, and it is what takes the deck from the best deck of the format to the clear-cut best deck of the format. Marshmallow Yummy is exactly what the deck needed, especially after losing the 2 copies of Obedience School. The card is phenomenal. Essentially, it is a free special summon for the deck, which it didn't really have before because it had to have a Link 1 monster on the field, or a Synchro 2, but what it will do is basically allow you to have a 1-card combo while still not using up your normal summon. So it's essentially more copies of something like Hornet Drones, for example. So again, it's a free special summon if you control no monsters, or if all the monsters you control are light beasts, and then on summon you can add a Yummy spell trap from graveyard to your hand, or if it was summoned by the effect of a Synchro, you can place a Yummy field spell or continuous spell or trap from your deck or banishment face up on the field. So it helps you get access to your copies of a Croaky or Mignon in case your Snatchy was imperm when you use that effect, so that is important to note as well. It's just a great card all around, and I definitely think it's, in my opinion, the best card and the chase card of the set for a reason. But it's not the only Yummy card that we're getting in this new set. We're also getting Yum Yum Yummies, which is a continuous spell that's not really going to see very much play. It is a time card, or it used to be a time card, but it's not really the case anymore. I'll be honest, the card is really not going to see much play because it's a bit more win more. It allows you to like link summon on your opponent's turn kind of thing, which is really nice, but doesn't really allow you to do much else. I just don't think that Yum Yum Yummies is going to be that impactful for the format. I don't see anyone playing it in their strategies because they already have the perfect ratio, I find, of starters to extenders to non-engine, and this card just doesn't really fit the bill for that. It's not as good as Surprise, for example. Another really good contender for this next format is going to be Dracotail, and they get 2 new cards as well. They get Dracotail Frixel, which is a secret rare, I believe, and they also get Dracotail Sting as well. These 2 cards are great, and I will definitely see play in Dracotail. Frixel, first of all, is another normal summon for the strategy. On normal or special, you can target a Dracotail in the graveyard except for itself, and special summon it, then return 1 monster you control to the hand, which is really good because if you have 5 mana, for example, in the graveyard, you can normal summon the Frixel, add it to your hand, and be able to fusion summon as well, which is, again, a really useful tool. You can also just use this card to be able to normal summon itself out, get the Malulu back onto your field, and then return the Frixel back to hand as well. So that's a key factor there. If this card is sent to the graveyard as fusion material, just like all the other Dracotails, basically, you can set a Dracotail spell trap from your deck, so really important there. And one of the cards that's going to be setting is going to be, of course, Dracotail Sting, another trap card, where you can target a monster and or a spell or trap card in your opponent's graveyard and banish them. Then you can place a Dracotail card from your graveyard to the or banishment to the bottom of your deck, and then draw a card. So it is susceptible to Ash Blossom just like the other Dracotail cards are, but it's still a very good option because previously you're playing 2 copies rather, of your Dracotail traps. I believe it's Horn and Flame, I think, are the 2 ones that it is. And if they both got interrupted or banished, then you had no way to recycle them back, which really hurts your resource loop. And Sting giving you a whole other one means that you have to basically get rid of all 3 of them, or else they can consistently get the resource loop going over and over again, which makes the deck really powerful. So that's going to be the Dracotail cards. They are going to have a big impact on Dracotail as a deck itself, and will make them definitely a better strategy. Then we have an ultra rare being K904 Noroi. This card I'm sure you've been seeing all around. It is an incredible card and definitely a worthy inclusion in any K9 strategy. Basically, it's another normal summon for the K9 deck, but allows it to just do pretty much anything. Essentially, it's a free normal if your opponent has at least 2 or more cards in their hand, which is great. And on normal summon, you can summon out a non-machine K9 monster from your deck, and usually it's going to be something like a Jokel. because then Jokul can add a non-pyro, I believe it is, to your hand, which is great. So you can get something like a Lantern, for example, or you can get a Nizuna, whatever the case might be, and you can get the entire K9 engine online. Basically, with a single copy of Noroi, you're able to set up Ripper before the 5th summon, which is important, but you also get to set up something like a potential Link 4 or 2 different rank 5 Xyz monsters. This card promotes so much for what K9 wants to do. It really allows it to extend, and this single card just goes so far, and you really have to take this card seriously. If it hits the field, you probably want to slap down an Imperm on it. Obviously, Valor, Ash Blossom, things like that aren't going to be as impactful because K9 as a deck really thrives when you have summons or when you have monster effects being activated in hand or graveyard, like the Ash, like the Valor. But Noroi is still an incredible card because not only does it do all that crazy stuff and summon out that monster from the deck, but also you can destroy a K9 card you control, a face-up K9 card you control, I believe it is, and then you can just look at your opponent's hand. Doesn't do anything other than that, it just looks at the hand, and it doesn't need to do anything more than that. That alone is still crazy. So that's going to be Noroi, great card here, going to be seeing play in pretty much every single K9 list. I also want to shout out K9 Jax down here, another great card. I believe it's a super rare in the set. Basically, if it's Xyz summoned, or if your opponent activates a monster effect in hand or graveyard, you can detach a material and then target a monster on the field and destroy it, which is great. It gives more interruption. It's like an alternative rank 5 to something like a Valon would be as part of the K9 strategy. And it also has another effect where if any turn your opponent activates a monster effect in the hand or graveyard, any battle damage this card inflicts is doubled. So on its own, attacking directly, this card does 5,200 points of damage, which is huge. That's going to be it for the K9 cards coming to the strategy. I also want to shout out Dominus Spiral, the newest card for the Dominus archetype. We have Dominus Impulse, Dominus Purge, Songs of the Dominators, and now Dominus Spiral, which in my opinion is not going to be as good as Impulse or Purge is, but it's still a really solid card and definitely will be a good option, especially because you can pair it with either two of those Dominus cards. You can pair it with Impulse or with Purge because it doesn't conflict with them either too much. So basically, if your opponent activated a monster effect in the hand or graveyard this turn, just like the triggers for the K9 cards, you can activate this card from your hand. You target a monster your opponent controls, return it to the hand or extra deck. So it's basically compulse. Then, if you have no traps in your graveyard, your opponent can special summon one monster from their graveyard. So if they have cards in their graveyard and you don't have like a Imperm or a Dominus Purge or Dominus Impulse or whatever the case might be in your graveyard, it kind of doesn't really do as much. It's a lower impact compulsory evacuation device, but it still is a good card nonetheless. And then if you activate this card from your hand, you can't activate the effects of light or dark monsters for the rest of this duel. So that's super important here. But in decks that play either just fire or just water, for example, you can use something like Dominus Impulse and Dominus Spiral and have two really good options there. So just keep that in mind. It's a great card and definitely a worthy search, or definitely a worthy card in the secret rare slots. After that, I want to showcase a few, well, I still want to talk about one other card here, Dogmatika Fleur de Lis, the Thunderous. This card is also really cool. I believe it's a secret rare in the set. It's a really good card and a really unique form of interruption, but basically during the main phase, if a monster is special summoned from the extra deck is on the field, as a quick effect, you can special it from your hand. And if special summoned from the hand, you can set a Dogmatika trap from your deck, and it can be activated this turn while your opponent controls a Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Link monster with 25 or 100 or more attack. So you can set something like a Dogmatika Punishment, for example, which is a really good way to be able to fill up your graveyard and get potentially 2 pops if you're going to be sending an Entis, for example. It gets guaranteed 1 pop for sure, which is great. And yes, there's going to be extra deck restrictions on that, but it's really not the end of the world because this card is just so strong and definitely is a really unique hand trap in the format today, and we'll see its time as a great option. Next up, our Tri-Brigade's Arms Mouser. This is just another great Tri-Brigade card. It's a great option because when Link summoned, you can send 2 Tri-Brigade cards with different names from deck or extra deck to the graveyard, which will trigger the extra deck monster effects. So for example, you can like draw a card and put a card at the bottom of the deck. You can have a spell or a trap card or something. It's just a solid option. And then you're locked into Beast, Warrior, and Winged Beast, which is fine. That's all the deck really cares about anyways. And if it's sent to the graveyard itself, you can target a face-up monster on the field and just book it face down, which is still a really solid way of interrupting the opponent regardless. Then I want to showcase Bramble Rose Dragon. This is the only one of the Rose Dragon cards I'm going to talk about, but there's a whole new wave of Rose Dragon support coming out, and it's going to be really solid. But this one I think is really cool because it's a way to basically end on a monster on your side of the field and then still be able to trigger the original Black Rose Dragon on your opponent's turn, which is great because the important part here is going to be during the main phase, you can, as a quick effect, tribute this card, special summon one Black Rose Dragon from your extra deck. It's treated as a synchro summon, and that's huge because then you can trigger the Black Rose Dragon effect, which is going to be really, really nice. I want to talk about the Magnificestorm, or as it's going to be called in the TCG, the Radiant Typhoon archetype. And this is the archetype that revolves around like quick play spells and MST specifically. It's just a really unique archetype made up of like entirely wind monsters, and it's really cool. And I don't think it's gonna be that meta relevant per se, but it'll still be a really fun archetype nonetheless. But the main boss monster is Great Pyre Phoenix, and it has a different name in the TCG. This one is, I believe, a secret rare in the set, but if a quick play is activated, then you can special summon this card from your hand, which is great. And then again, if a quick play is activated while this card's on the field, you can target up to 2 cards your opponent controls and return and shuffle them to the deck, which is really strong. And while it's in the graveyard, if MST is activated, you can special summon this card, which is really nice. There's also going to be the Vortex Beauty Valrune. This one is also really nice. It's basically a monster negate if you have an MST in your graveyard, and then if you have 2 or more MSTs in your graveyard, you can destroy the monster as well, which is cool. So it's like nib protection as well. We also have the Crothia, which is a way to search for any Magnificestorm or Radiant Typhoon card and or MST from deck or graveyard, which is really nice. There's going to be the Airdam, which is a way to be able to, it's a Stratos for the deck. It adds a Magnificestorm or a Radiant Typhoon monster from deck to hand. There's going to be Megala, which is also really cool. Yeah, that's right. It allows you to special a different Radiant Typhoon monster from your deck than the ones you control, and then it locks you into wind monsters, which is important. And there's also going to be Suen, which is another solid one. It allows you to add a Magnificestorm spell or trap from deck to hand or an MST. And the Magnificestorm or the Radiant Typhoon, I should call it by its correct name, but those cards are also really good. There's the Summoning Technique, the Sight Trance, and then the Stanza Tribute, again, all of which have different names for the spells. There's also the Sovereign Tyranny. These 3, actually they all have the effect rather, where if MST is activated to destroy this card, you can just reset them back, which is really nice. So you can always go effectives, for example, Summoning Technique to be able to Foolish Burial a Magnificestorm card, and then you can chain MST to pop it, so you can use it again on your opponent's turn. And they all have 2 effects. They have their effect, for example, Summoning Technique is a Foolish Burial, Sight Trance is they draw to discard a Quick Play or Magnificestorm card, and Stanza Tribute is a Rhoda for the deck. But they also have another effect to add a MST from deck or graveyard to hand, which is critical because all these cards, there's no once per turn on it, but you can only use one of the effects per turn, or each one of the effects per turn. So for example, for Stanza Tribute, you can do the Rhoda effect to add a level 4 or lower, and you can also use the effect in another copy to be able to add an MST from deck or grave to hand. So that's really important. And then of course there's Sovereign Tyranny, which is the really important one. The main thing is going to be once per chain when MST is activated, you can target one face-up card your opponent controls and negate its effect. And then again, if this card is destroyed by MST, you can set this card. So you have ways to be able to trigger MST and keep value there and be able to get extra cards on field, but you also have a negate now, and you actually make MST negate a card with Sovereign Tyranny. That's going to be it for the Magnificestorm or Radiant Typhoon archetype. There's also going to be the Doom Z archetype, and I'll be honest, I looked at Doom Z, I don't really know too much about it. The rest of the cards in the main set here, I'm not as familiar with as the ones from before. But basically, the Doom Z archetype in whole is, I think, 4 monsters for the main deck, 2 spells, 1 trap, and I think it's 3 extra deck cards, including the Jupiter, the Power Patron. But the whole gimmick is they use equip spells really effectively, and they kind of like cheat out these Xyz monsters from the extra deck, which is really cool. This one over here specifically, Doom Z and Drastrius, is insane. You can cheat it out pretty easily, but basically the first time this card will be destroyed by battle or card effect each turn, it's not. And then you can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If this card is Xyz summoned, you can equip one other face-up monster on the field to it. So basically it's non-targeting and non-destruction removal, which is really cool. It also doesn't send the card to the graveyard, which is really nice. And when your opponent activates a monster effect on the field or in the graveyard, but not in the hand, you can detach a material from this card, negate that effect, then you can equip one face-up monster your opponent controls to this card. So again, it's another form of non-destruction, non-target removal while being a negate as well, which is so strong. The other guy here, this other rank 4 Deactoris, is also pretty good. Basically, it's going to be a way to add pretty much any Doom Z card, I believe it is, or equip spell rather. So basically, you're going to be able to, when it's summoned out, you can destroy a Doom Z card in your hand or face-up field, then you can destroy a monster on the field. And this card specifically was destroyed by battle or card effect while it has a Doom Z or Medius, the purest material. You can add to your hand or send to graveyard 1 equip spell. So it's pretty good because you can get the equip spells into the graveyard or add them to hand and be able to have them do kind of whatever you need them to do to extend further, which is really nice. I also want to showcase Doom Z Destruction, which is a really cool card because If you're able to equip it to a Doomsday Xyz monster, it gains the effect where your opponent cannot add cards from the deck to the hand except by drawing them. So it basically turns everything into like Thunder Dragon Colossus, which is really cool. Obviously not cool, I should say. No one likes that effect, but it is a good effect to have for this archetype. After that, there's going to be the DDDs. Again, this is a super complicated archetype, but they're getting 3 new main deck monsters. They're getting a new Dark Contract spell and a new Dark Contract trap, as well as I think it's 1 each of a Link, Xyz, a Synchro, and a Fusion as well. I think it's this one over here. There we go. And honestly, it's fine. I'm hearing good things about it. It's just not an archetype that I have really any desire to learn. I know it's super complicated, so I'm not really going to focus too heavily on it unless someone at my local starts to play it more consistently, and that's the case, then I will learn it and I'll come back to you guys. But yeah, it's a deck that is very complicated. It's getting new support and people are definitely excited about it. From what I understand, this Sky King Zeus Ragnarok is pretty good. There's also going to be the Solfachord's getting new support as well. Specifically, it's getting 3 new cards. The Solfachord Happiness is insane. This card is crazy. Basically, you can, as a non-once per turn, you can just activate this card and then use each of its 3 effects. So you can do it if you have 3 copies of Happiness in your hand, you can activate them all one at a time. The first effect is you discard a card, and if you do, add 2 Solfachord Pendulum monsters with different scales from your deck to your hand. Then you can special summon Solfachord Pendulum monsters from your hand up to the number of monsters your opponent controls, +1. So if they have 0 monsters on the field, you basically get to discard a card, add 2 names, and then summon out 1. If they have 2 monsters on the field, you get to do the whole thing. Discard a card, add 2 different names, and then be able to summon out 3 because they had 2 + 1, 3. It's a crazy, crazy card. That's going to be just the first effect. During the second effect is going to be, during your main phase this turn, you can conduct 1 Pendulum Summon of a Solfachord monster in addition to your Pendulum Summon. And you can only gain this effect once per turn, which is still really good because you get the Pendulum Summon out now twice. That's really strong. And finally, the last effect, just very casually, special summon 2 Solfachord cards from your Pendulum Zone. That's also really strong. So you can just summon out the 2 cards you've been using to be able to basically Pendulum Summon. All 3 effects on this card are all really, really strong. There's also the 2 new main decks, and they're also quite good. Solfachord Primoria is awesome. It's a level 1, it's a 0 scale, which is great, so you can summon out level 1s with it. But when you Pendulum Summon a monster, you can target 1 Solfachord card in your Pendulum Zone and return it to your hand. So basically it doesn't lock your zones, which is really nice. And as a monster effect, it's able to, while you have Solfachord cards with even and odd pendulum scales in your Pendulum Zone, your activated Solfachord cards and effects cannot be negated. That is super important, okay? You can only use each of the following effects of Solfachord Primoria once per turn, and if it's normal or special summoned, it's basically just Stratos. You add any Solfachord card from deck to hand, except itself. And if you link summon a Solfachord monster, you can add a Solfachord card from your graveyard or face of extra deck to your hand. So this card is insane for the strategy. It gets you resources, it recovers card back from the extra deck, it's got a great Pendulum Scale and Pendulum Zone effect. It's just an awesome card. And there's going to be Solfachord, which is also really strong. Its pendulum effect is when a monster effect activated by your opponent on the field resolves and you control a Grand Solfachord monster, you can negate that effect, then destroy this card. So it's a really strong effect because you can basically negate things at the resolution of the chain, which is really nice. And then you can have for the monster effects, if you control no monsters or all monsters you control are Solfachords, you can special summon this card from your hand, which is great. And you can also activate this next effect by tributing this card or by not. And it gets extra bonuses by tributing it, just like something like Mitsurugi Prayers would. So during your main phase, you can special summon 1 Solfachord monster from your hand, except for itself. Or if you tributed this card activation, you can special summon that monster from your graveyard or face of extra deck instead. So again, it's not as good as Primoria in my opinion, but it's still a really good card nonetheless. So that's going to be it for the Solfachord cards. I think there's a lot of value in these, and it's going to make the deck actually quite strong. Then there's going to be the new RB cards, and I have them all listed as custom cards here because DB hasn't actually added them in yet. But they're really unique cards. They're actually quite strong, and they can do a lot. But the problem is, RB itself is not really a good deck right now, and it's kind of how it goes with TCG exclusive archetypes. But they're getting a good bit. They're getting here 3 new main deck monsters. They're getting this should be over here as well. So 3 new main deck monsters. They're also getting 2 new spells, and they're getting a trap. They're also getting a new Link monster as well, Shepherd's Crook. I'll be honest, I'm not really interested in learning what these cards do. From everything I've seen about them, they are not very good right now, and they don't expect to be good in the future unless they get a lot more powerful support. There's also going to be 2 new Artmage cards as well. There's going to be a new Trap card, Turmoil, and a new spell card, Lineage. Again, the Artmage cards are really interesting. It's the lore archetype with Medius the Pure and everything. But but I just don't think they're at the point now. They're kind of like Branded was before the Branded structure deck. We're just waiting for the equivalent of like Branded Fusion for the archetype to make it really that good. As for these other cards I want to showcase here, first off, I want to showcase this card here, Kurzabuth. Again, it's a different name in the actual set itself. I think it's going to be a common. It's just a really interesting rank 7 monster. So it gains 700 attack for each material attached to it, and it could use multiple, more than just 2 level 7s. But what's really cool is once per chain, when a normal or quick play spell card is activated, as a quick effect, you can attach that card to this card on the field as a material. And if you do, this card is unaffected by the activated effect, which is awesome. So it protects itself from interruption. But also during the end phase, you can set one spell attached to this card. So basically, if you manage to, let's say your opponent goes Droplet, Send, Spell, and Trap, and you go, okay, effective Kurzabuth, and you're gonna be able to attach the Droplet to this card. And then in the end phase, you can just set the Droplet that's attached to this card, which is really nice because you can then use it against your opponent. That's really cool. After that, I want to showcase the Double Fusion. Very simple card, just it's fusion twice. It's poly twice. That's all it is. You pay 500 life points to do it. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but basically you can use the fusion by summoning out use 2 monsters in your hand to summon out a fusion monster. Then you fusion summon with that monster that you just summoned out as well. I don't think it's gonna be good right now. I'm not saying it is. I think in the future, this card will see some play. It just feels too strong not to, being essentially a double summon for free. After that, there's going to be this Leviathan, the Burning Blade, just a good fire support card. I plan to test this out a bit in Fire King because I love that deck. But basically, during the main phase, you contribute one other fire monster, then target a fire monster in the graveyard, in your graveyard, with the same original type, but a lower original level, which is really cool because you can use something like you tribute a copy of Kirin, for example, and then you can use that to summon back out a copy of Ponix, and then Ponix can search for your Fire King spells and go from there. And then other than that, if a face down card in your spell and trap zone would be destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can banish this card you control instead. That effect's not really going to come up too much, but I do think there's potential for this effect here as a quick effect to be able to actually do something. I don't think it's going to be great right now, but I do think it has some application in the future. Then there's going to be Onomatokage. This card is also going to see a lot of play, I think, immediately because of Onomat Rizul as a deck. Basically, it turns this card here, Dodo Warrior, into a 1-card combo. I think it already was a 1-card combo thanks to like one of the Zubaba cards, but it becomes even better now because of Onomatokage. So it counts with all of the Onomat cards. It's Zubaba, Gagaga, Go-Go-Go, and Dodo all at the same time. And if you control either of those 4 types of cards, while this card's in your hand or graveyard, you can just special summon it out, but banish it when it leaves the field. So essentially, you can use Dodo Warrior to send this card to grave from deck for cost, summon this card out, and then you can summon out the Onomatokage directly, and then you can use those 2 monsters and make a rank 4, like something like, I don't know, for example, a Duo Drive is a pretty good option as well. And then, of course, Onomatokage is going to be still in the graveyard, and you can then just banish it to recycle back your Xyz monsters, which is still really cool. And the last card I want to talk about today is going to be this one, Ichiki Sayori Hime. It is a random-ass spirit monster that I do think at some point in time will see competitive play. The reason why, I'm going to read it to you. If you control a monster with 800 attack or defense and this card is in your hand, you can immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon this card. So it's a second normal summon, which is great. Then, if this card is normal summoned, you can add 1 level 4 light or dark monster with 800 attack or defense from deck to your hand, except for itself. So what does this mean? Well, this means that we need to figure out that any level 4 light or dark monster with this card that has 800 defense, by the way, attack or defense, is basically a free rank 4, free link 2, whatever. It's a great option. So what I want to see is, well, what options are there? And some that I found were Aratama is a great one because you can normal summon Aratama, and then you can use the effect to add 1 spirit monster from your deck to your hand. So you can add the copy of Ishiki. You can then use the effect because you have a monster that has 800 attack or defense on the field in Aratama to normal summon it out, to then add a monster that has 800 attack or defense that's light or dark. And you can add something like, I don't know, Exosister Martha, which is still really good. It's just another version of like Sakitama, Nikitama, that kind of stuff. It's still really solid nonetheless. And there's also another option being Wizard at Ignister. So this card can technically get you to Wizard, which is really nice. So it doesn't have to just be backup. But is it going to be that strong right now? No. Is it ever going to really see a ton of meta success? Probably not, but I do think it's a card that you should have on your radar at least. It's just a super rare. I'd pick up 3 copies just to be safe. But yeah, that's like the vast majority of the cards in Doom of Dimensions. It's going to be a really interesting set, and obviously Marshmallow is going to be the main draw, as well as the Frixel and the Noroi, as well as Dominus Spiral. Those are like the main 4 cards you want to keep an eye out for. But I think it's going to be a really unique set with a ton of really cool archetypes. Will it shake up the meta that much? I think a lot of the top decks are still going to be the top decks, but it'll just make them even stronger. So thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time.